Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning. This is Kinetic Chaos Podcast number 46. I am your host, Will, joined as always by my good friend Wes.
Right here I am.
He is to my left. We are down in the secret underground bunker today. The weather is not quite cooperating. Sounds like Mother Nature's going to bring us down to reality and give us some cool temperatures, some rain, and it's all much needed, isn't it?
It's time for fall, I think.
It is, and with fall we get all the wonderful things except for pumpkin spice.
So I wonder if you're going to bring that up.
Oh my gosh, we were walking through Safeway yesterday and they've got the Starbucks there.
Yeah.
So we walked by, Derek, oh, they've got pumpkin spice. I'm like, oh my goodness, son, don't even bring it there.
Have you, on a side topic, have you seen all the actual ingredients in the pumpkin spice syrup that Starbucks uses?
I'll bet none of it has pumpkin in it.
It's like straight chemicals. It's like 100% artificial. It's disgusting.
All artificial and sugar.
Yeah.
That's it. It's unbelievable. See, I'm not a big pumpkin guy. Like, even if it's with a gluten-free crust, about a slice 2 inches thick of pumpkin pie at Thanksgiving is going to be the maximum I enjoy all year long.
Wow. See, I could go nuts on like pumpkin pie, pumpkin bread, that kind of stuff, but the pumpkin drinks, like the lattes and all the other foo-foo stuff, no, I'm not into that.
The foo-foo stuff. We used to have a thing, a total side note, we used to have a thing in my family, we always draw names each year at Christmas time, so we had what was called the foo-foo fairy. And the foo-foo fairy would bring one person some goofy thing like a thong or something like that. It was always wonderful.
Nice.
But yeah, with the pumpkin stuff, I can't get into it. I don't know what it is. The pumpkin bread though, see, I'm going to lump that in with the zucchini and all of that bread and all that. And in that, it really has nothing to do with the vegetable that goes into it. It's the fact that it's bread and butter. And you can't miss with that.
Oh, yeah.
It's absolutely wonderful. And so I really enjoy that. So actually the pumpkin bread, we get a little, the cinnamon in there. See, now I want some bread. Ooh, I love raisins.
Yeah,
I'm a raisin guy, but I don't know if I remember having raisins in that.
Yeah, I can go either way. I like it with and without. So.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of those breads, and I really miss those as I've gone gluten free.
Yeah.
So sorry about the side note to jump off the show, but we're entering that time. We got the football though. The first full weekend of football is behind us. We've got a couple games going on this evening though, and that's kind of exciting.
Yep.
I didn't watch one down of football this weekend.
Oh yeah?
Not one. I didn't see even the Oregon State game because I don't have Pac-12 network here. And so, yeah, I didn't see one down of football. We were just too busy doing cleaning or getting stuff organized here. So
right.
after you and I busted our backs on Friday, so I thank you again for that.
You betcha.
So, let's see what's something good that's happened to us since the last podcast, which has kind of been a whirlwind. What do you got?
I would just say the last podcast, the combination of both our little cooking side gig we did plus the actual podcast itself with my cousin, I thought it was probably like the most fun cluster of podcasts we've done ever. It was just awesome. It flowed really well.
John did
awesome.
an amazing job, and like your dad said, I think on Wednesday or Thursday, we wrung him out of as many shows as we could. I think we did 4 shows with him between Tech 2 and us.
Yeah.
And you guys with the California versus Washington show.
Yeah, he had four podcasts in less than 36 hours.
Yeah,
so,
and a cooking show. So that's that was a whirlwind trip for him in general, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
That was a lot of fun, and we appreciate John spending that time with us because I'm sure a few months before he came up, he wasn't planning on all of that good stuff.
Being overloaded.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, something good that happened to me was Saturday we had Derek's. I mean, besides the podcast, that was amazing. That whole 2 days between Tech 2 and everything that we did was just an absolute blast. And you guys look for that stuff. We'll get you some information here at the end of the show on how to find that and whatnot. But no, something good that happened to me was Saturday. Derek had his very first tackle football. Now, it wasn't a game. It was their jamboree. Didn't get to play that much. They were very, very unorganized, but it was good for him to get out there to experience what it was like to get trucked, and he did get trucked. There was a guy from Woodland who was a man amongst boys.
Wow.
He was probably 6 foot, 6'1", and he was lightning fast.
Wow.
So it was, and Derek tried to arm tackle him. Said, son, you got to get across the bow. You will not arm tackle a guy like that. And he kind of
dislocate your shoulder.
Oh yeah, he Supermaned it and then met the grass and it was all over right after that. So, but that was a lot of fun. And I'm gonna follow up on that later on in crunch time. But it was a lot of different teams, and it was each team got to run 36 total plays between two games, 16 offense, 16 defense. They called the penalties, but they didn't. You weren't penalized for whatever they did, because otherwise it would have been first down and 87.
Yeah.
So anyway, what's the first good news story, or the good news story that we have here is a homecoming queen has kicked a game-winning field goal. That's pulling double duty right there.
That's right. This is in Ocean Springs, Mississippi. Sounds all fancy. You say Ocean Springs, and then you say Mississippi. It's kind of like a letdown, right?
I wouldn't say an oxymoron, but we're not very far away.
So yeah, the homecoming queen, who is also the place kicker for their football team, and she's a senior now. She made varsity back as a sophomore, so this is her third year on varsity as the place kicker. So she was elected homecoming queen, and then went out and ended up kicking. Actually, she kicked 2 field goals during regulation, and they went into overtime, and she kicked the game winner in overtime.
That is impressive. Did she wear her tiara while she kicked the field goal?
I don't think so.
No.
I think they frown on that, probably.
Well, no, you could like tape it, duct tape it, get
all.
it really Mississippi, and just duct tape the crap out of it
That's
on
right.
top of the heel helmet there. Do we know? Is she a soccer player? Do we know?
It didn't say. It would kind of
Well,
make sense.
yeah.
Yeah, but it didn't say.
Although kicking a soccer ball and kicking they're a little bit. You got to kick with the side of your foot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, that's exciting to hear. And actually, Derek has, if not, I know one gal on his team, if not 2. So, and one of them is the coach's kid.
Okay.
So she's got some size
Cool.
for her, that's for sure. So, well, Hot Sheet's red hot and rolling. We old Brett Kavanaugh, his hearings have concluded. Or are we going to call it the clown show or hearings?
Yeah,
Which
so
one is it?
thank God for the circus being over, because that was pretty much just that. It was supposed to last 3 days. They ended up dragging it into a 4th day, but it is done now. Typical protocol is that you wait about a week. That way, anybody else, off the record can meet with them, like senators, and ask them a few more questions in their office or whatever. However, the Democrats or the opposing party, so in this case the Democrats, can stall for as long as, I think, a week. They have different filibusters they can throw in there and stuff to stall it out. So they anticipate that they're going to take full advantage of that and stall it yet another week. So the thought is that the actual confirmation vote will happen in about 2 weeks from now.
Okay, I know that on my Twitter feed, I'm getting bombarded by Kamala Harris trying to gather signatures for a petition to not allow him to be approved, basically.
Yeah,
or
and it's
confirmed.
just a joke.
And there's been a lot of things that came up this weekend about his past voting history and things like that, and so it'll be interesting to see how that impacts the confirmation, and if it will have an impact. Is there any precedent set for anyone not getting confirmed in this type of situation?
Oh yeah, I'm trying to think of the last one that didn't get confirmed. I thought there was somebody under, is it Reagan? Judge Bork didn't get confirmed.
Is his name?
But
Bork and Mindy.
yeah. But no, I thought there's been somebody meanwhile, but it's fairly rare to have somebody shot down. So
I figured that would. I mean, you've got to vet them pretty well before you're gonna trot them out in front of the Senate and all that good stuff and the other clown show. So.
yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of entertaining to watch everyone lose their mind over this, though. I mean, other than getting spammed on my Twitter feed by, I don't know that they should be allowed to do that. If you're going to gather signatures or whatever, go out and get them organically.
Yeah.
Not through some promoted tweet that costs the taxpayers or your donors hundreds of thousands of dollars, I would imagine.
And the Idiot of the Week award goes to, I want to know, that would be Cory Booker, Senator of New Jersey. You see him with the grandstanding with him supposedly releasing these confidential documents about him, and that him yelling that he was going to be Spartacus or something like that. Like, dude, you're in a freaking Senate chamber, in a Senate hearing, and you're yelling out, "You are Spartacus."
Yeah.
And
that's why I say clown show.
And it was a clown show, and all that was for show, because he claimed that I'm going to risk getting kicked out of the Senate for releasing this document. Turns out the document was already cleared.
Really?
So he was just being a total clown about it. So
and we talked about him and his use of the hearings as a political tool to fundraise and things like that, and how much of a joke that is. And it makes a joke of our legal process and things like the confirmation hearing. It's one of those things that I wouldn't say that it's sacred, but it's something that you've got to have some decorum at.
Exactly.
The rest of the world is looking at us at our highest court in the land. And they've got to be laughing to some degree that we allowed this to even happen. I mean, I know we have freedom of speech and things like that, but at some point, not that you want to quash that at all, but say, okay, if you're going to do this, have a little tact when you do it.
Big time.
And that's not what happened whatsoever. So, Les Moonves, he's in some hot water. He's out at CBS amid some allegations of sexual misconduct, and I don't believe this is the first time Les has had any issues.
No, and this came about a while ago in terms of him starting to get in hot water. This was about a month ago. There were 6 women that levied these accusations against him, and they were trying to just play it off and keep it under the radar, keep it quiet.
Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, exactly. Then another 6 women joined the fray, so we got up to 12 women, 12 different accusations against him, and so obviously he was obviously pressured by CBS to get out of the way. And the funny thing is, or not funny, depending on how you look at it, is he has a severance package that he could collect, depending on if they find him at fault in any given instance. So they said that if he is terminated without cause, his severance package is $180 million. However, if there is cause, and depending on the severity of these different things, that money starts dropping. Really? So they figured he'll probably negotiate some sort of a buyout, maybe in the neighborhood of $100 million is what the industry experts are guessing. And then the really stupid thing is, so they're saying he is pledged to donate, I can't even say this with a straight face, he is pledged to donate a portion, I think like 20% of his severance, to organizations that are aligned with the Me Too movement.
Yeah, how much of a joke is that?
Exactly.
I mean, talk about something that is even worse than not the allegations, because that's obviously very, very serious, but the whole system that they have set up. Why would you get $100 million and you're only going to give $20 million of it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like hitting the lottery. And the guy's in, is he in his 70s now?
I think so, yeah, he's up there.
It's not like he wasn't ready for retirement. So I'll take my $80 million and run. And I'm sure he was making $20, $30, $50 million a year. But I'd actually heard rumblings that Sumner Redstone, who was the head of Viacom for a long time in CBS then, he was trying to put some pressure on Moonves, because I don't think they get along. I could be wrong on this, but I think I read something, and this has been in the near future, or the near past, within maybe the last 6 months. I'm not sure, but it's got to be a big hit for his ego as well, because he completely turned CBS around. Yep. They were the absolute doormat.
Yep.
It was the Murder, She Wrote crowd was about what they were attracting, and then he got shows like 2.5 Men and what was it, the CSIs and in every major city, CSI Pocatello, CSI, Abilene, Texas. Anyway, he really did, and now, do we know if any of the gals in any of these allegations are with anyone famous whatsoever, like Harvey was?
No, yeah, I've not heard any names. It's just 12 women. They didn't name any names at all.
We wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be more that come out of the end of this. So. Well, number 3 here. This has been my favorite, and I enjoy this guy because he is such a shit show and he's such a disaster. And did you watch what I tweeted you with Marco
Rubio? Yeah.
This is Alex Jones. He's permanently been banned from Twitter, and his app has been removed from the App Store finally. This is where we get in that balance of free speech and things like that, but then what you're spreading, the hate and things like that. He's an absolute joke.
Yeah, there's no argument at that point. But it is interesting, the fine line you walk is that, are you stifling free speech on one hand, yet this is a private company like Twitter on the other hand, so they can do what they want. They can create their own terms of service and, dictate whatever. So I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence I certainly don't like the guy, but in terms of...
That's not when I said I enjoy it, I don't mean that I like it whatsoever. But it's hilarious to watch it, and people buy into it.
Oh man, yeah. So I'm kind of on the fence in terms of the whole termination process here, whether or not he should have been kicked off of Twitter, because at least as far as I know, he didn't like ever say anything as bad as like, you know, making death threats towards people. I mean, something like that, you should get kicked off Twitter. But for the stuff that he did, I mean, yeah, he says stupid, ranting, weird stuff.
Hojo.
Hey, Hojo. But I don't know if that warrants getting kicked off Twitter. But again, Twitter is their own company; they can do what they want. So I don't, you know, it's hard to find fault in either side. But Twitter also mentioned that they are gonna be basically just digging in and looking, constantly having a lookout to make sure he doesn't open a shadow account under a different name.
Oh,
so they're going to be all over him, making sure he doesn't open some secondary account and try to restart things, or yeah.
But even if he does that, he is so well egotistical on top of many other things that we could say about him. He couldn't start something like that and then not tell everyone on his crazy TV show. He is the things that he says and I haven't seen his show. I usually watch just clips and snips like that, but you know, he'll go into some rant about chemtrails or something like that and then segue right into selling his brain pills and his, you know, his male pills and all that stuff, because that's all he's doing. He's hawking all this crap to the lowest common denominator that believe what he's saying about chemtrails and things like that and Sandy Hook or whatever, and then going right into the fact that you go buy this stuff from me for $80 a bottle. I don't have any idea what it costs, but I'm sure it's not cheap.
And I don't know, I've never watched any of his show, even like 5 minutes. All I've seen is like a clip or a highlight that somebody else has posted of like, 10, 15 seconds, whatever. But isn't he the guy that also like goes in these little crying fits?
Oh yeah.
He's like doing little sobbing fits on air and stuff.
Absolutely.
That dude is just out to lunch.
And the fact that Trump went on there is, I mean, to give that guy any credence is sad, and to legitimize him is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, he goes after a base. He's got a core group of followers, and I mean, it's pretty big. By my old house out in Vancouver, I drive down the road, and there was a sign, Infowars.com. And I mean, I'm sure we might even have some listeners or watchers or viewers of ours that may watch him, and to each their own.
Yeah,
This is our own opinion, and that's what makes this country great, is that we can form our own opinions. So I don't know. That Rubio thing though was crazy. I mean, he's standing there, talk about decorum. He's in an impromptu press conference, and all of a sudden, he's got Jones sitting there barking at him, and then he is the master of twisting words. Yeah. It was, Rubio said, "I'll take care of you," kind of not, it was about having security escort him out, and Jones flipped it right away to that he was going to physically attack him and all this stuff, and he didn't say that. He said he'll take care of you. Maybe he's got his own security team. I don't know what it is, but he does that. He's a master manipulator. And so I guess for entertainment purposes, if that's what you come at it with, understanding that it's kind of like Battlestar Galactica, nothing is believable. We don't have spaceships, and there's no chemtrails controlling our minds. Right. Because if they were controlling our minds, wouldn't we all be believing the same thing, and we wouldn't have all this divisiveness all over the place? Yeah. That's what I always find hilarious. They're controlling our minds, yet we all hate each other, and we fight constantly about everything. So it's not, you better get the mixture, the cocktail that's coming out of the cockpit.
Something's not adding up.
Yeah, get something changed. So this one's scary though, and I think we've kind of touched on this one in the past. And that's facial recognition being tested at airports. And this is kind of what we were talking about at the smaller airports, am I right? Well, no, they were going to remove
just the good old TSA at the small little regional airports.
But I'm sure this type of technology is going to enter those because it's cheap to run. There's no manned man, the folks behind it, it's just Watson or whomever, whatever, the Wizard of Oz is running.
So this is a facial recognition software being tested for airport usage, and Washington D.C.'s Dulles Airport, massive airport. They are doing the testing right now. They've got it online in some areas. In particular, they are doing it on the arriving side of international flights as you zip through customs and present your passport. They are testing out, and obviously ahead of time you've got to have your face uploaded into a system. So as part of the pilot, it didn't say, but I'm guessing as part of the pilot, you would submit your photograph ahead of time. That way when you get to this port of entry, they can scan your face is in the database, and you're cleared kind of deal. So anyway, they are doing it at the customs area at Dulles Airport, and they are also going to phase it into the boarding area. Like when you get ready to get on the jetway, you're in the boarding area, you walk up to the gate agent, hand her your boarding pass, and then you cruise down the jetway. So now they're going to try to streamline it to where you walk up to the little podium where you would normally hand your boarding pass, and they're going to have an iPad mounted on a pole, and you're going to look at the iPad, and the camera's going to recognize look at your face and match you up with the manifesto and see if you're supposed to be there, and then you go on. So they said once this, and we may be years off, but once this gets fully implemented and they end up going this route, that you won't need to have a paper boarding pass, you won't need to have an electronic boarding pass on your phone. All you need is your face. So it makes it easy. And they did do a test run several times using a Airbus wide-body jet.
A380.
It was A350, so it wasn't as big as A380, A350 though. And they said through this testing they found that it cut boarding time in half.
Wow.
So that's a really big speed up.
It is a big speed up, but again, as I was talking about on 45, that trade-off between, I guess they could use driver's licenses and things like that for the domestic flights, but the international stuff, do we have photos on passports? Mm-hmm. I mean, and I would imagine that's probably what they're going to use for ease of getting the information in there, and the fact that people could be trying to skip out on it or something like that. I can see the how easy it is and how nice it would be to speed up those flights, but again, we're relying on a technology that is imperfect. I mean, we have the Mission Impossible people out there changing their face and things like that, and I'm sure there's a way to do that enough that all of those different points that it uses on your face would be able to change. I don't know.
Yeah, and obviously there's obviously going to be kinks that come up along the way. Software glitches or the system crashes, and then you're going to have to go to a old school boarding pass backup if your computer system goes down in the airport. So, as always, even though technology is supposed to make our lives easier, there's always going to be all these flakiness in the systems,
but our interweb should be running very well.
Interesting.
Well, we're going to go on to number 5 here, and we're back. Number 5 here, we've got a California senator that used LA cops as his own personal security, even when they weren't in Los Angeles.
And this would be one of our favorites, Kamala Harris.
There we go.
This is.
I just know that you love saying her name.
Yeah, so she used LAPD officers, off-duty officers in plainclothes as her personal bodyguards, even when she was doing business outside LA. So anywhere around the state, she would fly these LAPD officers with her. And that's kind of hokey because they technically work for the city of LA, so why are they working all over the state? And not to mention the overtime they have to pay these officers and putting them up in hotels, all this kind of stuff. So long story short, this year they were, I don't know how many officers this entailed, but her LAPD security detail was with her on 6 trips in the first half of this year, and it cost about $30,000.
Now
and that's obviously going to the taxpayers of California.
Is the city of LA paying her, or is her campaign paying her, or her office paying her?
That's a good question. I don't know how they funnel that money back down to cover the OT. But long story short, we don't have to worry about it anymore because LAPD got a new police chief 2 months ago, and he said,
No more.
Nope, you're not allowed to do that anymore.
I mean, I can see if they're off duty and it's their own personal time and they're taking a side gig, then that's one thing. But if it is something that the taxpayers are on the hook for,
Right.
then that's a big problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see if, like I said, if it is something that is personal or not personal, they're on their own personal time.
Right.
You know, there's not really an issue. If I was in a position like hers, I would want trained personnel, not just some, mall cop helping protect me. But
And they made it sound like, I mean, they were technically off duty, but as a police officer, you're never really off duty.
Mm-hmm.
So they made it sound like they were accruing overtime hours because they were working under the guy. It wasn't like a side hustle where they're driving a cab on the side or something. They were still working as an officer. They weren't on the beat. They weren't on duty on the beat, but they were still working as an LAPD officer.
so they were in full uniform?
No, they were plainclothes,
you
but they were still drawing OT off LAPD salary. So that's where the rub comes in.
Yeah, that's no bueno.
Yeah.
We can't have the taxpayers of California paying for something like that.
Right.
It should definitely be something that comes from her personal, campaign or whatever it may be. So
Right.
it's time for the flashback follow-up. This one is a hot button topic right
Yeah.
now, especially with the NFL beginning their season on Thursday actually. And that's that the NFL has caved to the players union and won't implement any national anthem policy this season.
So over the summer, we had talked about that, and the NFL had announced that they were going to implement a new policy. That is, you either stand for the national anthem, or if you don't want to, then you stay in the locker room until it's over. And
Or the tunnel, right?
right, yeah, it's somewhere off the field and out of sight, basically. And so they said that was going to start at the beginning of the season, and then the players union flipped out and threatened all sorts of legal action and everything else against them. And so it was kind of on hold. They were going to maybe work out a mutual agreement on something. And then just a few days ago, right before the season kicked off, the NFL announced that they were just going to drop it for now and not do anything, period. So it just resorts to like it was before. So I don't know. I mean, it's the whole thing that ultimately you're on the clock for your employer, and there should be rules. Like NBA has it. We talked about it before.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. Why not follow that precedent?
Yeah.
And just so that you can remove all this BS. And again, we talk about division and things like that. They are, I mean, yes, they do have a union, but they are all private companies. They're not even public companies like a Twitter that we were talking about or anything like that. They are owned by somebody, and that's what you need to follow what the owners say. We going back to, I kind of hit Burgerville on the Twitterverse last week about how they went back and allowed these people to wear abolish ICE buttons. Burgerville is a private corporation, and I even tweeted at Burgerville, hey, at what point do you guys stop this? Is it, if it says abolish Burgerville, do you allow that? I mean, what is your level of judgment on what you're going to allow? And I mean, do you have to say, I hate, aardvarks or whatever it may be? Why do you allow that? And there's so many other things that they wouldn't allow.
Right. And the common defense to all this is though freedom of speech and stuff, but you lose freedom of speech under your employer. Your employer's policies and procedures trumps your freedom of speech because you are working for that company or representing said company at will. You must follow their rules and regulations. Therefore, you are giving up your free speech to an extent in order to work for that company. Just like, I'm free to wear shorts and a t-shirt to work, but that wouldn't go over too well if I showed up wearing shorts and a t-shirt. So, you got to follow the policy of your company.
Exactly, and that's why, you have uniforms. And, I mean, think about the back, I hate to say the old days, but think about in the Pan Am days and what their requirements were for women and how, degrading a lot of them were about. I mean, basically, they were trying to sex up flying in with the airline, and those women, if they wanted a job, didn't have a choice.
Right.
And I mean, it's kind of like, I guess, a stripper going on stage with all her clothes on. Yeah, you could do it, but it probably wouldn't go over too well. And I know that's a really extreme example to use, but it is. And when you come out and you're so wishy-washy, for lack of a better word, on it, you create so many more problems with it. You have people that, You know, and like what Nike did with Kaepernick, and that's hitting them in the pocketbook.
Yeah.
You know, rather than coming out hard on something and sticking to your guns, you're caving to the vocal minority, which you and I go on and on about. You're letting a very, very small select group of people ruin it for the rest of us. Not that that's ruining it, it's just you're causing more problems. We got to hear about it more. I'm going to watch the NFL. I don't want to hear people bitch about this stuff.
Yeah, and that goes all the way back and goes right to the feet of Goodell. He's just too weak to do anything about it.
Well, he's making, you know, and why don't the owners
Yeah.
go after him? He is there for their beck and call.
Yep.
And I've got to imagine that Jerry Jones is not happy that, you know, as much as I hate to say it, Trump is right. Their ratings are down, and they're, you know, it's a product that is, again, dividing people. And when you have that in something that's supposed to be there for you to kind of check out. I mean, on Sundays in the fall, that's what people do.
Yeah.
I mean, they plan events with family. They have bars rely on that money. So you're hitting him. You're not just hitting the people like us. You're hitting real businesses.
Yep.
I don't care if it's a beer company, soda pop. All of their sales, Pizza Hut, all of them, their sales go up this time of year.
Yeah.
So it's something that, and it's not going to go away.
Nope.
We're going to continue to talk about this as we continue on with Trump. It sounds like his star has been reinstalled after being broken 10, 15, 28 times
Yeah.
on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
So last we heard about this is that, as you said, it had been repeatedly vandalized, and they just went ahead and flat removed it to stop said vandalization. However, they have now reinstalled it back on the Walk of Fame, and the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce issued a statement saying that it's their job to replace damaged stars, and you know they don't give any weight as to who that person is. I mean, if that star is supposed to be there, it's their job to maintain that and keep up the appearance. So they went ahead and replaced it. Now, how long it lasts, we'll see. But
Okay, what's our over/under on
Ooh,
that? What are we going to set up on that? I say less than a month.
I was moving less than that. Yeah.
2 weeks?
I was gonna say a couple weeks maybe, but
Okay, so let's set it at 13 days.
okay.
You take the over? Or
No,
the under?
I think the under on that. On
I'll
13 days.
I'll take the over.
Okay.
I'll take the over at that. So
Okay.
that's we'll write that down for the old flashback follow up, because I think that's a good number, because I can imagine maybe by this weekend somebody's going to be out there at 2 a.m. with a sledgehammer bashing it up again. And do you know how many they've had to put in? I mean, how many times it's been broken up? I want to say 6.
Oh yeah, it's been a handful. I mean, it's definitely more than 1 or 2, but I can't remember the exact number.
Yeah, I can't either. But And at what point, as him as a person, do you stop? And why do you continue to let them put it on there? It's not good press. I mean, even though they say any press is good press, it can't be good press for him. And somebody as egotistical as he is, I would imagine maybe it's just a big FU to all them that he's probably paying for.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Hopefully the city of Los Angeles isn't.
Yeah.
Maybe they are. So, well, let's get into the old trifecta here. Number one, we've got a health scare at 2 major airports with arriving international flights.
Yeah. This is actually on a quick side note. It's kind of funny because my favorite author Brad Thor wrote about this exact same thing a few years ago in a book of his.
Really?
But this was, excuse me, in 2 different incoming international flights. One of them arrived at JFK in New York, and the other one was in Philadelphia. And the big one that hit the news was the one arriving in JFK that had come from Dubai. And there were numerous people that were sick on board, and so they had to quarantine. They pulled the jet off to the side on the tarmac away from everybody else, and they had like CDC guys go on board and check stuff out. And they traced it all back to a bunch of these people had gone to Mecca for the pilgrimage, the annual pilgrimage, and contracted some sort of diseases there. And like I said, there was another flight in Philadelphia, same kind of deal, people with flu-like symptoms, and they traced it back to these people that were the most sick, that were the hosts of this illness, obviously, or basically, had come from Mecca. And so this obviously is a dangerous thing, because this shows you with the advent of air travel, you can spread diseases like crazy. You can just move all over the world.
in less than 24 hours.
And side note, you may or may not know this, on this, the first flight I mentioned, the one that came into JFK from Dubai, you know who was on board?
No.
Vanilla Ice.
Yeah!
He was not one of the ones that got sick, but he tweeted about it afterwards that he was on board that flight, so that was pretty awesome.
Nice, baby.
Yep.
Oh, we got a level of Rob Van Winkle.
You betcha.
When I found out, I'm sorry to kind of squirrel on this one, but when I found out when I was a kid what his real name was, all of his luster was gone. I couldn't believe that somebody that was as cool looking as that guy and had the moves that he does, I can see why he went by Vanilla Ice.
Oh, yeah?
Because if you worked out to Rob Van Winkle, I just can't see it working.
Well.
No, kind of like the lead balloon that we like to talk about so much. The next one up on the trifecta is that there's a small hole. Any hole in the space station is not a good hole.
Yep.
At all.
Yeah, so this is the International Space Station, and it was a very small hole. They said it wasn't much bigger than a grain of sand, is what it equated to. But originally they thought it was just a piece of space debris, like a little tiny rock or particle floating in space. And obviously, when you're moving at tens of thousands of miles an hour, any little tiny thing is going to cause a lot of damage too. And they had showed there was a solar array on the space station that had previously had a solar panel shatter out because it got hit with a little rock when they were cruising around. Anyway, so what this cruising, so they thought it was just that they got hit by something, a piece of space debris, and so they patched it up. And then upon further inspection, they determined, this is where it gets kind of weird and interesting, is they determined that the puncture happened from the inside going out.
What?
It didn't get hit from the outside, something punctured from the inside.
How does that work?
So,
especially in zero gravity.
So one thing you're wondering, is it sabotage? Somebody come along with a knife, like one of the crewmen on board with a knife and trying to, but they kind of ruled that out. What they're thinking of, because they said they have no way of tracking it, but they said it theoretically could have happened when that module, because this was a docking module that came up with the Soyuz spacecraft, I believe, so it wasn't a permanent part of the space station, but they said it could have happened on the ground when they were, prepping for flight and somebody ran into something, because they said they found some abrasion marks, like somebody drug a tool across the side, so almost like a worker was walking by with someone on a tool belt and he scraped the wall or something, but yeah, so it's pretty crazy. I mean, obviously it could be extremely catastrophic in an instance like that, but long story short, they can't exactly pinpoint where it came from, and they're thinking it just as easily could have happened when the spacecraft was on the ground as it could have when it docked up in the air. So
how? I don't know this. Maybe you can actually answer this. Do we know what the thickness of the fuselage of the space station is?
I don't know, and they made it sound like this was actually kind of like the airlock, kind of the connection port between the spacecraft and the space station itself, where they dock together. Right. But yeah, I don't know in terms of the thickness of the material they use on that. I do not know.
Because I can't imagine. I mean, and to say, you were talking about a knife or something. If it's the size of a grain of sand,
yeah,
that's got to be kind of maybe a little more much. But
right.
And to think that it could be some kind of sabotage, that's scary.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really scary. How big is the space station?
Oh boy, I don't know.
I mean, it's pretty big.
Yeah, I mean, it's good size. In terms of living quarters, it's not that big on the inside, but in terms of all your solar arrays and everything else you got going on with it, it takes up a good area. So. And
how did they find it? That's my big question. If it's the size of a grain of sand.
The oxygen levels dropped.
Really?
Inside. So whenever whatever finally weakened enough to breach a little hole in the hull or a hole in the side of the craft, the oxygen levels started falling, and they had alarms going off warning them of a falling oxygen level.
Okay, so then they basically do the opposite of what they do to find the hole in your tire, which is to fill the room with water.
Yeah, I don't know how they ended up finding this little tiny hole, this size of a grain of sand, but they said basically the way they patch it up temporarily is basically good old duct tape. It's some high-tech version of duct tape. You just slap it on there and close the hole off, and then and that was the other thing too. Is I don't know how well you would sleep, but they said it happened right before their bedtime. So they,
Really?
because they have planned bedtimes, they all sleep roughly the same time kind of thing to keep on a schedule. So they said that this hole was discovered right before bedtime, so they were told just to slap this piece of duct tape on it and then go fix it in the morning. But how well would you sleep knowing that?
Knowing that there's a good old piece of duct tape between you and space, that could, I mean, who knows, suck you out, the whole thing. If it's enough negative pressure that is going in between there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we're going to see that super space age tape that they used on an infomercial on the bottom of some kind of boat hole.
Applying it when it's wet.
Exactly, and like the Flex Seal stuff.
I was gonna say that's
developed by NASA, because that's the #1 thing they use to hawk all that.
Oh yeah, Hype City.
Yeah. And you know, it's for the 2 o'clock in the morning crowd. Hey, you gotta have something.
The Alex Jones crowd.
Yeah, no, that's my mom. So I don't know that she's watching Alex Jones, but she probably does watch an infomercial or two. And you ever? Again, side note. It is fairly entertaining if you have a complete grain of salt and about 7 Bloody Marys in you to watch that crap.
Yeah.
And you know, what was that one, the squeegee or whatever, that crazy tweaker looking guy? He ended up getting busted for meth a while ago. You know, the cleaning, anyway, he looked, ShamWow. That was it. Remember the ShamWow?
Yeah.
Oh man.
He looked like a skinny Guy Fieri with the spiked hair.
Exactly. and that's amazing. So the ShamWow.
Yeah,
and I just saw you on the feed do this, and that was
it's awesome. Like a rooster kind of thing.
Something like that, yeah.
Was it a Vince?
Was his name Vince?
Vince, I think so. Vince from ShamWow.
Yes.
What is that? Yes. See, look at this.
Look at the brain on Brad. That's impressive that you knew his. But I think he did get busted for drugs. Maybe not meth, probably coke. He stepped his game up after the ShamWow came out. He's like, I'm not using that bad stuff.
Yeah.
Give me the Colombian Bam Bam. Well, number 3 here is that, is Sweden's elections have made the country move to the right, and I think that in Scandinavia they're fairly left leaning. And I am Scandinavian.
Schenectady?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Scandinavian.
So this, as you said, Scandinavia has definitely left the center on the whole. And Sweden just went through their national elections, and a lot of their positions in government, the conservative-leaning candidate won. So which the balance of power has now shifted decidedly to the right. And they said the big referendum behind this is it is a referendum on what has been their open borders policies, where they're just welcoming in floods of immigrants, which is killing their social services. It's draining all their welfare systems, all their programs, and all the other resources within these cities and metropolises. And so the citizens have now begun to see that this is unsustainable. You just can't let people come flooding in, because your country's going to collapse if you just keep letting these waves of people coming in. So
somebody's got to pay for it.
Yeah, exactly. So Sweden looks like they finally kind of woke up and now have started electing more conservative people that aren't a fan of the open borders. But now that you've got 8 gajillion migrants there, how do you get rid of them? That's the next problem. But
that's a completely different problem. But
right.
And like you said, Scandinavia on the whole has been a very a pretty progressive, not nation, because it's 3 different countries, but you know, Norway, Finland, and Sweden are all, you know, like I said, fairly left-leaning, and they have some amazing. Their school systems are incredible, especially in Norway and things like that. So they have some systems that are really, really, you know, well thought out and run. But like you said, just letting the floodgates open for people to come in wasn't very well thought out. And I don't think that Finland and Norway have the same policies, but it's one of those things where, you know, you can see why people want to go there. They're clean countries. The wealth is not incredible, but everyone lives well and they treat each other well. I have family that's in Norway. In fact, my cousin may be watching us, and you know, it's such a wonderful place, and to hear, you know, I had another cousin come over last summer, and she was just, 2 years ago, she was just talking about how great everything was, and she lives actually above the
Arctic Circle?
Yeah, Arctic Circle, and it's really cold up there. Did you know that?
Yeah, I would imagine.
But no, it's so it's something that they've been running pretty darn well for quite a few years, but they need to tighten some of this stuff up and not go so far and understand that at some point. Oh wow! Thanks, Mr. Estes. We appreciate that. We got a little update on Vince from ShamWow. He was arrested for beating up a prostitute who bit his tongue. So,
wow.
Mr. Estes, I appreciate you. That's why we love the interaction.
The live feed. You can feed us info on the fly.
Exactly. Thank you very much. But yeah, so back to Sweden. They just need to tighten that up. Maybe think it through a little bit more before they allow just anyone to come in. So.
And then, as a side note, one thing that I remember a lot of things about the trip, but one thing that
you went to Iceland, right?
No. My parents did. No, I went to Norway after high school. England, Scotland, and Norway. But we did, when we went to Norway, one of the things that kind of jumps out at me is, remember coming out of the airport and catching a cab to our hotel, and you think in the US you see like your yellow taxi cabs, or all the Crown Vics, basically is what the standard taxi cab is. Every single taxi cab there is jet black, highly polished and washed, Mercedes-Benz.
Really?
Every cab is a black Mercedes, like brand new Mercedes.
S-Class, E-Class, C-Class?
Way back when, I can't remember because that's obviously more than 20 years ago now, but yeah, it was just walking out the airport and seeing the line of cabs waiting to pick people up, and they're all highly polished black Mercedes. I was like, whoa, that's a little bit of a different thing than America.
Yeah, exactly. Where if you're a JFK like we were talking about earlier, and you step off the curb, if you're not getting an Uber, you're taking your life in your hands. And having been through that experience, I loved it. I think that riding in a cab in New York is one of the, if you can get over the fact that the stories are not too far off. There was a couple of times where you have to embrace the situation. Otherwise, you may soil your pants. But it was a kick in the pants.
Yeah.
To say a lot of pants talk there, but no, that's interesting and maybe it's because Mercedes are less expensive there.
I would imagine that probably has something to do with it.
Yeah, that's now I want to go there even more. We really want to go there, and because we have family and whatnot. But that'd be pretty cool to see. Complete side note, I went and took Derek his football pads today. There's a kid that got a cab at the school.
There's a kid went to pick my daughter up from kindergarten on Friday. There was a yellow cab parked out front of the school. Probably the same thing. It's like, what is going on?
Maybe the parent drives it. But a kid walked out of the school, and because I had my back turned to the parking lot, kid goes, "Who got a cab from school?" And I looked over there it was. And as I gave Derek his stuff and I walked back to my truck, the cab was going around.
So I went in to grab Annabelle on Friday. When I came out, there was an empty cab parked right in the pickup lane out front. I'm like, what is there a cab doing here at school?
That's
awesome.
It's
probably the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, how did lunch go with Annabelle Friday?
It was awesome. I should have used that for my good thing. Yeah, I surprised her for lunch. Yeah, I know. Too many good things happen, man. We got crammed it into a long weekend there, but yeah, surprised her. Her first day of school was last Friday, so I took her to school in the morning. Then John and I did our little California Washington podcast, and then no, that was on Thursday. So I'm getting my days mixed up. Look at this. So
because you have so many days off, which is over now.
No,
vacation's done.
So anyway, but on Friday, took her to school in the morning, and then also went back and met her for lunch, which was really cool. She was really surprised to see me, and I got extra bonus points because I was the only parent that showed up for her class.
Really?
So all the kids
Did take her to class?
No, at lunch. At lunch.
Okay.
I was the only parent at lunch. So naturally, all the kids flocked to me. I'm sitting at the table.
Well, it's because you're a giant and a ginger.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but they all had me opening their Capri Suns for them. Yes. Poking the straws in there.
Did you go from the bottom?
No.
Oh, come on, you gotta teach them the trick.
I know, but I don't want to be responsible when they squirt juice all over themselves and then tell their parents on me. I can't have that.
It's not for that. I can totally understand that. It's so that when they're done drinking them, they can put them on the ground and pop them.
Yep.
That's why you go from, no, that's good times right there.
You betcha.
Well, at this time, I want to drop in a promo for PMP. They are going to have their podcast coming out Wednesday. I'm going to go over some new schedule stuff here in just a minute. But right about now, I want to get the Platinum Moms podcast promo in. If you will write down 4937. Here we go, Platinum Moms. And we are back from the Platinum Moms. I don't know. Oh, Gemsgard.
Gemsgard /
Mr.
Columbia River Gorge Elementary.
Yes, indeed. And you were at Hathaway, though, right?
No,
No,
the new one.
She's
Columbia
up there
Gorge.
too?
Yeah.
No kidding, I guarantee it was the same.
Oh yeah. Anything east of the high school goes to the new one.
Yeah, you're right. Way to go, Will. Not even knowing where anything is. So, well, right now I want to give everyone some updated info on what our new schedule is, shows, things like that. We've added a few things. You've probably seen on our social media feeds that we've got a new podcast that just dropped for the first time last Thursday, and that would be the Tech 2 podcast with your dad and your cousin, David and John, who John joined us last week. So I'm going to go over from Monday through Friday what our schedule is going to be. From here on out, on Mondays, I dropped would be the second one, but the KCP Kids, as it's going to be called, because Kinetic Kids was already taken. That will drop on Mondays from here on out. On Tuesdays, you'll have the more serious version, this version of Kinetic Chaos Podcast. On Wednesdays, you'll have the Platinum Moms Podcast coming out. Thursdays will be the Tech 2 Podcast. And then Friday, we'll get you into the weekend with the fun Kinetic Chaos Podcast. And that's the one with the freestyle, a little more lighthearted, things like that. So we've also got the new cooking show, and I think we're going to film our next one next Monday. We're going to double up, do a twofer next Monday. We'll have the cooking show jump off probably around 5 o'clock or so, and we're going to try to keep that to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
We ran quite a long time on Thursdays last week, but we have a special guest, we had a new grill, all of that fun stuff in there, so we're going to really try to keep it really close to 30 minutes. It's going to be on all kinds of fun stuff, usually barbecue related. We may not have a barbecue in every episode as we maybe work on teaching folks how to build a sauce, things like that. But we're going to have that. I would really like it if that could come out weekly or bi-weekly, depending on what our schedules are like. But I'd like to get into a rhythm on that. So, and what else am I forgetting?
We've got an interview with Larry Hoff.
Yeah, I'm gonna go over some of the other stuff.
Okay,
we got coming up too. So we've got on September 27th, which will be 2 weeks from this Thursday.
Right.
We've got another sit-down interview with Larry Hoff. He's going to come into the secret underground bunker, come into our territory, and but this is going to be a freestyle episode. We'll probably do some stuff, a little bit of political stuff, but I want to see what Larry's got to say about some of these fun topics that we like to talk about, a little more lighthearted stuff. So we got that coming up on the 27th. We'd really like to remind everyone, like and subscribe us on our iTunes and on our YouTube channel. I've been working really hard, especially today, on uploading a bunch of content that I have missed because of schedules and things like that. But look for that stuff. We've got the cooking show, we got that up, all the KCP episodes, these, and some more fun stuff. The bonus episode that you and John did, part 1 and 2, released that today, and I put it together and released that as a podcast. So we got a lot of good stuff going on, and we're going to continue to build on that. I booked over the weekend a local business owner, Ryan McDonald, with McDonald Excavating. He's going to come on here in the next month or two and kind of talk business, and I've got some other business owners that we want to bring on and just talk about what it's like to own a business, build a business, because Ryan has built McDonald from a successful company to a company that is just knocking it out of the park. So if you're from the local area here, you've seen McDonald Excavating in a lot of places. Yeah. So anyway, we've got that stuff coming up, and we're really excited about that.
And one other tease for 2 months from now, basically.
Oh yeah, that was my first note here.
That's okay. Yeah,
no, go run it.
I'm fired up for it. Election night, that being Tuesday, November 6th, we are going to be here.
Right here.
Unless we get some sort of VIP invite potentially somewhere else. But other than that, we are going to be here covering the election. The West Coast results start rolling in about 8 p.m. Mm-hmm. So I think we're going to plan on jumping on air maybe between 7 to 7:30. We can do a quick recap on some of the East Coast and Midwest stuff and start working our way this direction.
Exactly.
And by the time we get you all caught up with what's happened out East and Midwest, then the returns will start coming in here for the West Coast at 8 p.m. and we can roll with that. We'll probably have a TV set up so
We will have a TV.
yeah,
set
we can monitor returns live on air. We can discuss certain things, and then
I
particularly
might even have 2 TVs. I might
Yeah.
bring in both of these down here so we can have multiple channels.
yeah, and then ultimately it'd be interesting to follow our local races here, which we'll probably have to log on to the Clark County election website to follow that. But we can get the national races in terms of Senate and Congress and up and down the West Coast too. So. Yeah, it's going to be a long, fun-filled night. I think we're going to bring in some tacos because it is Tuesday, November 6th, so it is Taco Tuesday.
Yes.
So we're going to have, I think, a whole bunch of tacos, some nachos.
Yeah, and some ABT,
Yeah.
Atomic Buffalo Turds. Sorry if that's getting a little racy for the airways here, but those are bacon-wrapped jalapenos stuffed with cream cheese that we may even have to turn and do some kind of cooking episode earlier in that day. I could do just by myself where I smoke the ABTs and show you guys how to make those, because those are one of the greatest tailgate things, treats, whatever it may be. It is, because you take the seeds out of them and they're amazing.
So that's going to be a long night for us. I planned ahead. I've got the next day off work, so we're going to burn the midnight oil covering the election returns coming in on that night. So it's
there
going to be
may
fun.
even be, because it's Taco Tuesday, and margarita involved.
Yeah.
I think that
gonna have to be.
in order to really, take in all of these results and be able to, go with them and accept them, we're going to have at least 2 margaritas.
Okay, I'm on board.
And if they're my margaritas, that's all we'll need. So yeah, we got that. That's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to, the tacos, and we might even have, try to get a special guest in here or something like that if we could get somebody to come in and make some comments or just watch us and eat tacos. I don't know.
There you
Could
go.
be the boys. Heck, who knows?
There you go.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. So you ready for some crunch time?
Yeah.
What do you got for me?
Little snarkiness.
Ooh,
who knew, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Something we've touched on before is that now that we've got football season, NFL in particular, I'm talking, underway, and the Seahawks are looking not so hot this year.
Oh, let's not go there yet.
What?
It's one game.
I know. Well, no, I mean in general, on paper they don't look
Yeah.
good, and they lost their first game. I'm anxious as the season progresses and the L's start mounting. How many Seahawks flags disappear off the front of houses?
Oh, many. I mean, it's just like Oregon Duck flags.
Yeah, the fair weather friends packing it in and going home. So I got a neighbor like 3 doors up the street that has one.
Not
There's
3 doors
7
down.
Yeah, there you go. No, it's technically is up the hill, so I was correct. But there's numerous Seahawks flags in our neighborhood. So I'm anxious to see as the season progresses and it starts getting a little ugly, if those guys pack it in and take their toys and go home. So
Well, as somebody who is a fan of a team and is very used to losing, and I've never been the biggest Seahawks fan. I do enjoy watching them. I will say I will count myself as a fan. I'm not going to pack it up. I've got a flag and stuff like that. So I won't jump off the bandwagon. But what's your under on wins for the old Sea Chickens?
I see them going 8-8.
That's kind of what
Yeah,
actually
I would hope they'd be sub 500 personally, but no, realistically, I would say 8-8. I don't think they make the playoffs. There's no way.
I think they actually have an outside
You just
shot.
sneak a wild card in there. You think
Yeah.
so?
Oh, they have no chance against LA. I mean,
Yeah.
as we talked about on 45, but I think that they're actually going to be a little bit better team than what the prognosticators are saying.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 9-7.
That's rich. I don't know.
That's rich, huh?
That's rich. Yeah.
Yeah, I really think that, and obviously starting off by losing 27-24 to the Broncos is not helping the cause, and what I believe, like I said, I didn't watch any football this weekend, but from what I understand was kind of a wishy-washy call on the last touchdown that the Broncos scored. I guess the guy's line or foot might have been on the line. So,
but the big overarching story is that Wilson got planted 6 times, and he's the franchise, and he's spending half the game on his back because the line can't block. That's not going to go over really well this season. So.
No, not whatsoever. So, well, my crunch time is football related as well, but mine has to do with the fact that I was at Derek's Jamboree, which I mentioned earlier, and mine is crazy football moms. And sorry, mic stand here, but yelling and screaming incessantly at kids they don't know, and I'm there to root on the Washougal Panthers. I really am. I love it, but I'm trying to concentrate on the game to some degree, and they're hollering and yelling. Their kids are running around like crazy, and I just want let me watch the game and enjoy it for what it is. I don't have to be chanting. It's not a soccer match. And every single time somebody does something, we don't need to cheer it on. Little Timmy fell down. We don't need to cheer, and we don't have to yell at the referees and all that kind of crap. Again, we go back to decorum and things like that. I'm all for, and I can be one heck of a fan and hoot and holler and things like that, but you got to understand where you are. Act like you've been there. We've said that before. We're at 7th grade, first jamboree. A lot of time, some of these kids have ever hit anything or hit anyone, and we've got this, this one or two people at the front of it yelling and screaming, and so the people in front of them, A, have to listen to them, and B, they've got them standing right in front of them. Excuse me. So it's like, okay, rooting, if they get a first down, great. If they score a touchdown, even better. But if they lost 6 yards, and again, the quarterback got sacked, we still don't have to root. We can maybe say, hey, okay, that we shouldn't cheer that on.
Right.
We need to encourage the kids to get better. But that's my rant on crunch time here, because after about 10 minutes of that, I am so done. I just want to walk away and go watch it in peace. So that's my little piece on the old jamboree for 7th graders, and that I kind of have that going on in a lot of what I do. So just enjoy the kids and understand what they're doing.
Absolutely.
So, anyway, you got anything else?
I got nothing.
With that, this has been Kinetic Chaos Podcast number 46. We thank you guys so much for watching and listening. Everyone out there in Facebook land, again, like and subscribe us on YouTube, iTunes. Go to our website, www.kineticchaos.com. We are at Kinetic Chaos Pod on the Twitterverse. Interact with us. Tell jokes. We even had somebody kind of a hater on Facebook earlier on Saturday, talking about triggers, not triggers, triggers.
So every single comment had a typo.
Yes. So I hope that was meant and it was all in fun, but I really don't think it was. Yeah. So anyway, with that, we gone. There we go. Bye, guys.
All right, guys, we're signing off.
Thank you for joining us. Curtis, Mr. Estes, Andy. Who else do we have? Amanda, thank you for watching. Tia, Hojo, Weisman, and anyone else I missed, I'm sorry. Thank you guys very much.